Today we're talking about lighting with leopard geckos. Okay, so this is quite the controversial topic, especially on YouTube and just online, on whether leopard geckos should have lighting on their tank or not. So there's not really a very simple answer to this, because there's quite specific things that you need to follow that I do that I think is best for your gecko. So firstly, there's more than one type of light. So you've got just the simple lamp that lets off heat, just your average light bulb. These will come in different wattages and they let off pretty bright light. You also have night bulbs that will let off heat. Some will let off heat. This doesn't let off much, but this lets off heat. And they both aren't very noticeable to us because they are dark red and dark blue colors, but we'll get into that more later. And then finally there's UVB bulbs. Like this is one of the tube lights that lets off UVB, which is good for certain reptiles, but not all. A lot of people say that geckos should have no light because they're nocturnal. Now this doesn't really make sense, because if you think about it, humans are diurnal, and that's kind of like saying that we should always have light because we're diurnal so that we can always be active, and that wouldn't be good, because although we have time, geckos usually don't check time. They're not going to know what time of day and night it is, so they need to know when to be active and when to be sleeping to stay healthy. So you do want some kind of light, but there's more specifics into that. So let's go ahead and get the UVB out of the way. Now this is good for certain types of lizards that need those extra vitamins in their light that basically mimic natural sunlight for them to stay healthy, but because leopard geckos are nocturnal, they usually stay out of the light naturally, just out in the wild, so they don't get any sunlight anyway. So there's no point in getting this. As long as you're feeding your gecko correctly, it's not going to need extra vitamins from light. So we can go ahead and get rid of this. Next, we've got these night heat lights. Some people put these on for geckos during the day and some during the night, and I never use these because you definitely do not want to use these at night. That's something you should never do, because geckos can actually see this. It might not look very noticeable because it's just that kind of dim red light, but that can really affect the gecko and hurt its eyes and bother it. So it's just not an accurate setup. It's not going to come out because it basically considers this a bright light, and it needs to be dark for that gecko. So just never use these with leopard geckos. We can get these out of the way. Finally, there's just the average heat lamp. Now you don't actually want heat over your gecko, because the best way to get your gecko warm temperatures is through belly heat, using a heat pad that sticks to the bottom of the tank. I have it right under Goldie's dry hide right there. If he's too cold, he can go in there and warm up with that belly heat. The other issue with this is it can be pretty bright. Just like the other lights, it can bother the gecko during the day while it's trying to sleep. Although it can go in the hide, you still want it to be able to come out. So the two things that I recommend that you do to get accurate lighting on your tank is, one, do what I'm doing here. So it's hard to tell. I have extra lights for the video. It's not usually this bright in his tank, but you can see this light right here. It's quite a dim light. I'm not sure if you can really tell just how dim this is, but that's because this has an adjustment piece on the back where I can turn it up and down. This is perfect because I can turn it down so that it's just light enough that he knows it's daytime, and then at night it goes off completely so he knows it's nighttime and he can basically wake up and do his thing. The second option you have is just use some sort of light in the room. I have a ceiling light in my room, but he's kind of far from it, so he doesn't really get much light. And he's gonna need light, like I said, because you want them to know when it's daytime and when it's nighttime. But if that light's bright enough to get a little bit of light into the gecko's tank, that's actually enough lighting. Finally, I have two windows in the room that he's in, but there's a bit of a corner in the way, so he doesn't get any natural lighting. However, if you have your tank near a window or somewhere in the vicinity that the light from that window can get into the tank, that's just enough lighting for it. That natural light, well, you don't even have to turn it off at night, because it'll just naturally, the sun will set and then come back up during the day, and that is mimicking the natural cycle, or it is the natural cycle for that gecko to know when it's daytime and when it's nighttime. So this was just going over different types of lighting and what you should use for your gecko. So I believe that you do need light on your tank, but it needs to be very specific and not too bright. People that say they should never have light are incorrect, because they need to know when it's daytime and when it's nighttime. And then, as I said, you don't want too bright of light. So these are the options that you kind of have and that I think work best with leopard geckos. So that's it for this video. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.